Welcome to the channel, folks. Today we're tackling a tough topic. The signs your relationship is in trouble. Ignoring red flags won't make them disappear. We're shining a light on those warning signs. No sugarcoating, just straight talk. Buckle up, we're about to get real. This is a wake-up call. Let's get started. Let's talk about communication, folks. Real, honest, open communication is the bedrock of any relationship. If you're not sharing your thoughts and feelings, you're just two ships passing in the night. Silence isn't golden. It's a breeding ground for resentment. Talk and listen to your partner without judgment. Disagreeing is normal in any relationship. But constant arguing is a major problem. It's not about the dishes or dry cleaning. It's deeper issues like your finances, infidelity, betrayal, stress from work, health problems, and unresolved conflicts. Ignoring them won't help. They'll fester and grow. Are you fighting to be right or to save your relationship? You know, folks, trust is the bedrock of any relationship. It's like the foundation of a house. If it's shaky, the whole darn thing is going to collapse. When you trust your partner, you feel secure. You know they've got your back, and you can be vulnerable. But when that trust is broken, it's like a punch to the gut. It's hard to come back from that. You start questioning everything. You wonder if they're telling the truth, if they're really where they say they are, and if they still care. That kind of suspicion can eat away at a relationship faster than a termite infestation. So, how do you know if the trust is gone? Well, you're constantly checking their phone, you're suspicious of their every move, and you just can't shake the feeling that something's off. That's a bad sign, folks, a real bad sign. Let me tell you something. You can be crazy in love, but if you two ain't rowing the same direction, you're gonna end up shipwrecked. That's what happens when you have different goals for the future. We're talking about the big stuff here. Marriage, kids, careers, where you want to live. If one of you is dreaming of a white picket fence and 2.5 kids while the other wants to travel the world and live out of a backpack, well, that's a recipe for disaster. It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. You can force it for a while, but eventually something's got to give. And let me tell you, that give is usually the relationship itself. You might think you can change your partner's mind, but that's a dangerous game. You can't force someone to want what they don't. And resentment, it builds up faster than a snowball rolling downhill. Remember when you first started dating? You couldn't keep your hands off each other, you talked for hours on end, and you felt this incredible closeness. Well, emotional distance is the opposite of that. It's like a slow creeping chill that settles over a relationship. You start to feel like you're living separate lives. You don't share your thoughts and feelings anymore. You stop making plans together, and you just don't feel connected. You might be in the same room, but you're miles apart in your heads. It's like you're living with a roommate instead of a romantic partner. And that, my friends, is a lonely place to be. So what do you do about it? Well, the first step is acknowledging that there's a problem. Don't just sweep it under the rug and hope it goes away. You got to address it head on. Now, let's talk about intimacy. And I ain't just talking about sex, folks. This is about connection, plain and simple. When you're intimate, you're vulnerable, you're open, you're sharing something special. You see that spark in their eyes? You feel that warmth when they hold your hand? That's intimacy. And when it starts fading, you better believe it's a sign something's wrong. Maybe you're not kissing goodbye anymore. Maybe you're sleeping in separate bedrooms. Whatever it is, don't ignore it. This ain't about how often you're doing the deed. It's about that fundamental need for closeness and affection. If you're looking at your partner and feeling nothing, if that spark is gone, well, you gotta ask yourself, what are you holding on to? What's keeping you in that relationship? Let's talk about money, folks. It's a big one. It can bring out the best in people and it can bring out the worst. And in a relationship, well, let's just say it can cause a whole heap of trouble. You see, money represents security, freedom, power. And when you've got two people in a relationship, each with their own ideas about money, well, that's a recipe for disaster if you're not careful. Maybe one of you is a spender and the other's a saver. Maybe you're fighting over bills. Or worse, hiding debt from each other. These financial disagreements, they're not really about the money, you see. They're about trust, respect, and shared goals. If you're constantly fighting about finances, if you can't agree on a budget, if you don't trust each other with money, then you gotta ask yourself, can this relationship survive? Because money problems, they don't just disappear on their own. Listen up, because this is important. Relationships are supposed to be a two-way street. Your partners, your teammates, you're supposed to be there for each other, through thick and thin. That means being each other's biggest cheerleader. It means supporting each other's dreams, even if they're different from your own. It means being a shoulder to cry on when things get tough. And trust me, they will get tough. But when that support system crumbles, when you feel like you're going through life's challenges alone, when your partner's nowhere to be found when you need him most, well, that's a problem. Ask yourself, is your partner really there for you? Do they celebrate your victories? Do they offer comfort in times of need? If the answer is no, then you've got to ask yourself if this is the kind of relationship you want to be in. Let's talk about infidelity, folks. This one's a real heartbreaker. Cheating is a violation of trust, a betrayal of the deepest kind. It shatters your relationship, leaving you lost, hurt, and angry. Rebuilding trust after infidelity is tough. It takes work, confronting pain, and commitment to change. If you've been cheated on, you're not alone. I have been there. My husband had a son, and I only found out after 4 years. It's not your fault. Don't blame yourself. Even when he blames you for it, cheating often reflects a lack of self-control, and you are not responsible for his or her actions. Cheating is a choice. Take time to process your emotions and seek support. If you strayed, ask yourself why. Own up to your actions and face the consequences. We all have our own set of values, those fundamental beliefs that guide our decisions and shape our lives. But what happens when your values clash with your partner's? Early on, differences might seem exciting, even complimentary, but over time they can lead to major disagreements and resentment. Imagine one of you wanting to raise your children in a specific faith while the other is dead set against it. You can try to compromise, but some values are non-negotiable. Talk about your values early on, and I mean really dig deep. If you discover fundamental differences, you need to decide if those are deal breakers. Can you respect your partner's values even if you don't share them? A little jealousy now and then is normal, natural even. It shows you care. But when jealousy becomes a constant presence in your relationship, a green-eyed monster that rears its ugly head at every turn, you've got a problem. Excessive jealousy is rooted in insecurity and a lack of trust. It can manifest as possessiveness, constant suspicion, and attempts to control your partner's behavior. It's like a poison that slowly eats away at the foundation of your relationship. If you're constantly feeling jealous, ask yourself why. Is it stemming from your own insecurities, past experiences, or is your partner giving you legitimate reasons to doubt their faithfulness? Communication is key here. If your partner's behavior is making you uncomfortable, you need to talk to them about it. But be honest with yourself about the root of the problem. Don't let jealousy control your relationship and drive a wedge between you. We're talking about respect, folks, and let me tell you, it's non-negotiable in a relationship. It's the bedrock, the foundation, the very air you breathe in a healthy partnership. Without it, you're building a house on quicksand. You might think you're doing okay, but sooner or later, it's all gonna come crashing down. Now, disrespect can show up in a lot of ways. Name-calling, put-downs, constantly criticizing your partner. Maybe it's more subtle, like dismissing their opinions, rolling your eyes, or just not listening when they're trying to talk to you. Whatever form it takes, disrespect is toxic. It eats away at the fabric of your relationship, leaving behind resentment, hurt, and anger. You might think you can just sweep it under the rug, pretend it's not a big deal. But let me tell you something, folks. Disrespect is a cancer. It festers and grows, and if you don't address it, it will eventually consume your relationship. We all come into relationships with a little baggage, right? Past hurts, disappointments, maybe even some trauma. That's just part of life. But you can't just stuff that baggage in the overhead compartment and pretend it's not there. Sooner or later, those suitcases are going to start popping open. Maybe it's an ex that keeps popping up, or old patterns of behavior. If you haven't dealt with your past, it's going to haunt your present and future. You don't have to unpack every piece of emotional baggage before a relationship. But you gotta acknowledge it, talk about it, and work to heal those old wounds. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up for unnecessary pain and heartache. You know, folks, everyone wants to feel appreciated, especially by the person they love. It's a fundamental human need. When you put your heart and soul into a relationship, but your efforts go unnoticed, it can be downright soul-crushing. Think about it. You're constantly giving, compromising, and putting in the work, but it's like your partner doesn't even see it. They take you for granted, like a comfortable old shoe. They expect you to show up, but they don't reciprocate the same level of effort. That, right there, that's a recipe for resentment. And let me tell you, resentment is a silent relationship killer. It festers and grows, poisoning everything good you have left. So if you're feeling unappreciated, don't ignore it. Don't brush it under the rug. You need to address it head on. Look, I get it. No one likes to fight. Confrontation can be uncomfortable. But let me tell you something. Avoiding conflict altogether is like putting a band-aid on a gaping wound. You might think you're keeping the peace, but all you're really doing is sweeping those issues under the rug. And you know what happens when you sweep things under the rug? The pile just gets bigger and bigger until one day it explodes. So you're walking on eggshells, tiptoeing around the real issues, and all that does is create distance and resentment. It's like building a wall brick by brick until you can't even see each other anymore. Listen, disagreeing is a part of life. It's how you handle those disagreements that matters. You gotta communicate, folks. Talk it out, listen to each other, and find a compromise. Because burying your head in the sand won't make the problems disappear. Well, folks, there you have it. 15 signs that your relationship might be headed for a ditch. Remember, recognizing the warning signs is just the first step. The real work comes in addressing these issues head-on. Relationships are tough. They take work, commitment, and a whole lot of communication. But most importantly, they require two people who are willing to fight for it. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more relationship advice. See you next time.